to drive a few other cars while I was out there, which is what I'd gone out, including first actual true complete race car I'd ever driven, which is an interesting experience. I'd forgotten how much of a blind spot full bucket seats give you when they've got hands adapters and the rest on them. It's a few moments of just doing this before turning in.
Nice one. So are you obviously not the only one to have been on track. I think you've been on track as well this week. Have you, Toby, or were you?
No, I didn't get to go on track. Unfortunately, I was at Brands Hatch, so coaching 2 drivers for SVG just to kind of get them ready and warmed up for the season. So we managed to save 3 seconds on one drive, which was amazing. So we've had a good day. But no, I was a bit gutted not to have a squeeze on the throttle. I think Damien's gone.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Or is it me that's gone? David's gone.
No, you're still good.
I love it. I love the technical issues. Sorry, guys. We're having all sorts of fun here. I'm just making sure that we're actually live streaming right now on ZoomZoomers. So just give me just a few seconds while I have a look at that. I've got another laptop open. If any of you guys have also got a laptop open, if you wouldn't mind just checking for me, or if you've got something to one hand, it might be a case that we have to just do those introductions again.
Wait, one.
Because for some reason it's jumping to my my personal account, which is frustrating because it's showing the ZoomZoomers logo when I go in.
Yep, I've got it live.
It says we're live now.
Yes, we're live now.
Fantastic. Right now, so anyone watching this live is now going, what are they on about? So for the I'm pretty sure we did miss the beginning. So what I'm going to do is just quickly go through everyone again. I'm sorry about this. Thanks, Neil. Thanks. So we'll start again with Toby Trice.
Like being in the Matrix.
Yeah. Toby, if you wouldn't mind letting us know your name and your Twitter handle, please.
Yeah, of course. I'm Toby Trice, and my Twitter handle was Toby_Trice, and I'm a racing driver on a campaign to raise awareness for infertility.
Fantastic. Alan.
I'm Alan Bradley. I'm a presenter of the Motoring Podcast, and my Twitter handle is @AJP Bradley, BRADLEY.
Great. And Neil.
I'm Neil Briscoe. I'm a freelance motoring journalist, mostly for the Irish Times and CompleteCar.ie. And tonight I'm coming live from the inside of a new Land Rover Defender.
Very nice. Mark.
Yeah, automotive journalist with a penchant for 2 wheels, and on Twitter I am Blacktop Media UK.
Lovely, thank you. Richard.
I'm Rich Gooding. On Twitter I'm @richgooding.com, and I'm a freelance motoring writer and graphic designer.
Thank you, Richard. Ben.
I'm Ben Hodges, Deputy Editor of Carbite, and my Twitter handle is Ben SV Hodges.
Thank you, Ben.
Got it. Nailed it.
Craig.
Hello, I'm Craig @Craig_Woollard, and I'm a freelance motorsport journalist and historian.
Thank you, Craig. Ian.
Hi, Ian Cook from Pop Band Colour. I'm an artist. I paint, I draw, and I've had a haircut. Yay!
Yay! Very good. Naomi.
Naomi Panter @Naomi Panter on Twitter. A motorsport PR mostly, and a co-founder of a company called Navigate.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lewis.
Just waiting for my noisy printer to stop making noise. My name is Lewis Kingston. I'm a freelance motoring journalist, and you can find me on Twitter @TheseOldCars.
Great, thank you. And LA.
Hi, can you hear me? Because I've got my earphones in. I didn't realise how bad the sound quality might be from me every week till I watch something else back. So hopefully this will be a bit better.
You've always been all right. You've always been fine.
No, because it sounded like, when I did the quiz the other week and I watched it back, and it just sounded like I was in a tin can.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, maybe it's my laptop. I don't know. Anyway, I'm LA. Hi. Nothing to do with Hollywood. It's just my initials. And I kind of do a little bit of this and that for Inside F2, which is a Formula 2 platform. But otherwise, I do nothing.
Fair enough. But Formula 2 started again, hasn't it? So how was the weekend for you, LA?
Oh my gosh, it was so exciting. Yeah, I mean, it probably sounds really, really bad. I don't know how it's going to sound, but I watched a little bit of F2 last year, but that was sort of the first time I'd started to get into it. And so this year's sort of a really new experience for me. And I just loved it so much, those guys having the same engines and, obviously, chassis. And it obviously shows the talent. You know, obviously, like teams in F1 can have better cars, better engines because they're completely separate teams. But the surprise is coming in how you really do see that raw talent of those young boys, which is fantastic. So yeah, great weekend for F2 and great weekend for F1 as well.
Yeah, I found it really exciting. I don't know about the other guys because my dad came and saw me earlier and said, "Oh, I didn't like the race. It was really, really bad." I got the impression that it was actually quite a good one. I see a few agreements here. Naomi, what did you think of the F1?
It was great. I have to admit, I only saw the first half.
Okay.
I do admit, I was at a go-karting track on Sunday, so I missed all the race and I sort of caught up and then fell asleep. But I'd had it all spoiled on the way home when I was looking it up. But from what I saw, it was just fantastic. It kind of feeds into one of the questions I have for later, but I just think it's why the beginning of the season is so exciting. The reliability factor is such a massive deal.
Yeah.
And that's why I've always loved the beginning of the season. You never know what's going to happen. You can, from testing, judge pretty much where everybody is, but there's always the possibility of an underdog and the sort of, like the Force India McLaren kind of area of the grid. And I just love that. When you're cheering for a driver who can just make it to the line and just get that result, that's what you really want.
Yeah.
For me, from what I saw and what I viewed afterwards, it was tremendous. And in the circumstances, considering where we were a few months ago when all this ZoomZoomers kicked off and we had the Australian Grand Prix being cancelled, and just how in a mess I think all of us were, let's be honest. It was just so wonderful to watch racing happen again, and to happen in a really convincing, like very well done way was great. And I can't wait for the next one. Honestly, I don't mind that it's a couple of races at the same track. I have no problem with that. I think it's just going to make it even better, particularly in F1. We'll probably see a bit more stacking 2x2, but I don't really care. I just think it'll be another cracker.
Yeah, I mean, if the weather changes, it could be completely out. I heard some rumours about Pirelli. I can't change their mind about the tyres that they're going to bring, but I think for Silverstone, when there's a back-to-back race there, they're going to mix things up a bit. Craig's nodding along, and that's always reassuring.
F2, they are switching the tyres up, if I'm right, Craig. Is that right?
Yeah, they're bringing a softer compound for the second race at Silverstone than for the first one. So there's that added little bit of intrigue in there, and all the teams have got the same distribution of tyres for each of the races.
Cool. Well, Craig, what I've got you here, I don't want to dissect the F1 race too much because we'll be here for days, but what do you think about the Ferrari engine cars struggling compared to their pace last year at the same track? Is it an engine thing, do you think?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, because the speed trap is in a bit of a weird place at Austria. So the most representative place to measure speed is going into the hairpin at turn 3, which is really turn 2. But it's quite weird there because the Ferrari was the slowest car, but the Alfa Romeo Ferrari was the fastest car. So it's a bit of a mixed message from that, really. There was obviously the controversy last year with the oil burning and sensors and all this sort of stuff that the FIA elaborated on with like 10 minutes to go of testing. So there's a lot of stuff that was swept under the carpet that was supposed to be uncovered at Melbourne, but obviously Melbourne didn't quite happen. So yeah, it does seem to me that Ferrari may have slipped back a bit in that particular front, but I think a lot of Ferrari, the works team's problems are in the chassis side at the moment because that car just looked horrible.
Fair enough. They still managed to drag a podium out of it.
Before pronouncing on Ferrari engines at the moment.
Sorry, what was that, Neil?
I think we should get proper legal advice before pronouncing on Ferrari engines at the moment.
Yeah, quite possibly. But yeah, Ferrari's podium was more out of the brilliance of Charles Leclerc's performance, I think, rather than through car performance.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that was a reflection of a lot of the drivers that put in a stunning performance over the race, and it was we nearly got to see Williams getting in the points, which I think would,
I think we also have to maybe consider, without pointing fingers at things going on that maybe shouldn't, is that teams kind of naturally have these waves of look at McLaren. for example. You know, they go through these waves of success, you know, troughs, and you know, and maybe it's just Ferrari's time, even though it's something that the fans and certainly the team wouldn't want to hear. But maybe it's just their time to be behind everybody else, like everybody else has kind of had to. Williams, you know, they've kind of, a lot of teams have gone through it. Maybe it's just their time, their turn, and everyone else is, you know, going to advance a bit for a couple of years.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose it's hard for us to judge on one track, which is quite an unusual track in a sense. It's straight line, slam on the brakes, straight line, slam on the brakes late. So although we got that for the first 2 races, we probably shouldn't be judging too hard after that, because what works around Austria might not work in other places. Alan, did you have a point to make on that?
I was going to ask. I didn't watch it.
Okay.
Sorry, I was barbecuing meat. Other such fun stuff.
Acceptable.
So, but really, I think so. But is it worth me spending a tenner to watch the next one then? People who did watch it.
Well, that might be a red-green question at some point. I think that might be a contender for the red-green. So I would say green, but
say green. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think, you know, it's hard to say beforehand, because some F1 races are quite dull. But if it's anything like that one, that was definitely worth a tenner.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If you're unsure, you can always not spend a tenner and just watch the highlights afterwards and go off that.
This is true. Yeah.
That's true. And I think, but we know with this, you know, there'll be potentially more consistency thrown in, and you have the Red Bulls back in contention in this one, which sort of, if you haven't watched the last one, they were chucked out of this one. So I think it could potentially be very spicy. It could be a good one.
Yep. We were denied a very intriguing strategy battle that didn't play out because the Red Bulls stopped Red Bulling, really. So hopefully we get to see that.
What kind of a noise does a bull make, if that's what you were going to refer to?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I don't want to recreate it either.
Anybody?
No.
Yeah.
And so, Toby, as the only race driver in the room, I guess, how did you feel about seeing the pinnacle of motorsport again? I guess you watched the race, did you?
I watched the highlights. Yeah, I watched the
okay.
highlights. I was busy throughout the day and didn't get to see the live stream. But yeah, fantastic. I've got a shout out to Lando Norris. He had to put in a qualifying lap on the very last lap of the Grand Prix. The pressure must be insane to be within 5 seconds of Hamilton, and the boy brought it home. Like, I would want to shake his hand. What a performance! He he's very consistent. I know arguably he had a bit of a kind of debatable overtake into the 10.3, I think it was, which was a bit of a 50-50. I'd have made the move, but to put that last lap in, fantastic. At his age, he's got potential. That lad, real potential.
Have you seen the onboard of that lap? Because it's floating around Twitter at the moment.
It's insane. It's insane.
It's just like, it's just how you'd picture a lap. If you were going to run it through in your head, it just flawless, wasn't it?
It was perfect, wasn't it? And I like the dual images at the minute on I think it's through McLaren that show the pit garage as well as his on board right next to each other. And you can see that anticipation and feel it and even I was at home. I'm a Lewis fan, so obviously from that perspective I would have wanted him to have kept the position, but I'm also a new Lando fan, and every inch of my body was like, come on, just do it. And then the 4.8 at the end was I celebrated just like that garage. Just a shame I was on my own.
It was unreal. I tried to celebrate, but I was in the room with a Lewis Hamilton fan, so that was quite tricky. So yeah, to move on from Formula One, like I say, we could speak about that all night. Let's acknowledge the fact that Neil is in one of the most talked about cars right now. How is it, Neil? Apart from completely full of junk, how is the car?
It is. Oddly, I did this exact thing with the last Defender that I drove, which was about 5 years ago, with the last one that Land Rover Ireland had on the fleet. I drove it from Belfast to my parents-in-law's house in Waterford, carried out various tasks, filled it with crap, and drove it home. And that's exactly what I'm doing with this one. So currently we have in here a chest of drawers, an outdoor bench, 3 other outdoor chairs, 2 small outdoor tables, 2 potted plants, 2 duvets, and sundry black bags full of rubbish. So You can feel it. It's really impressive. I mean, it's pretty much a van already without the van version even being on sale, and it is superbly good to drive. It is just so smooth, so comfortable. Just don't bother buying a Discovery or Defender anymore. Just get
Wow,
one.
it's
It looks
that good.
fabulous.
So it's still got the spirit of the Defender because it was a hell of an act to follow, or is it just another new Land Rover?
Yes, in the sense that I took it across the Irish Army has a tank course on the Curragh just outside Kildare, which is technically public ground, so you can kind of almost legally get in there.
Kind of almost legally.
I'm yes. My lawyer has instructed me to say, but you can go in and splash around in the mud a bit, and it does all of that incredibly easily. So yes, it's a Defender in that sense, and it feels kind of tough and simple, and they haven't tried to make it sporty in any way, which I really do like. It's a bit too plush to be a Defender. I mean, you've got exposed bolt heads down here, but then you've got a really nice touch screen here, so it's kind of, there's a bit of cognitive dissonance going on. But okay. I'm really enjoying it. I'm a sucker for Land Rovers at the best of times, but I am really enjoying it. The only potential fly in the ointment is it's very expensive, and I keep driving past a locally parked Raptor Ranger, which does make this look a bit contrived.
Fair enough. Now, have you seen the pictures of the Grenadier that's just come out, which kind of is a bit of a Defender, if we're being honest?
Shameless.
No, it's a vanity project.
Legally speaking, I'm going to choose my words quite carefully here, and say that I'm not sure about that thing yet. I'll have to wait and see.
You have to wait and see. Yeah, I think that's an idea. What did you say, Alan?
I might have used the words vanity and project. I do feel that whenever a press release comes out, which is explicitly denying that it is the managing director, a vanity project, that it probably is a vanity project, because it's what happens when a very rich man is denied access to something he wants and then goes in a strop.
Right. Fair enough.
I think that's pretty fair. He wanted to buy the tooling and the rights for the old Defender. JLR said no. So he said, right, I'm going to make my own then. And the Grenadier is the outcome of that. It is legally not a Defender, looks wise, and that's it.
The same way as the Chinese.
I have real issues with it. It's not quite that Evoque copy, but it's legally that far from it.
Fair enough. Now, Ian, sorry.
You know, because don't Ineos, don't they sponsor Mercedes-Benz F1 as well? So there's a link to F1. It's just bizarre that kind of out of nowhere they're now sponsoring kind of the biggest F1 team in the world as well. Just
and cycling as well.
They took over Sky and cycling. Yeah.
And yet the Grenadier uses BMW engines.
Is this one of those things like a bit like Rich Energy where people are kind of going, where's all this sort of
I wouldn't say that, because no, I definitely not say that. There is a big proper company behind this.
Right.
They are very big in oil and gas exploration. They're very big in chemicals. They are despite what I just said about vanity projects, they are a big proper company with an awful lot of money for legal fees.
This is that whole thing about when people say that the likes of Aldi don't know anything about copyright because they just copy everything else. But no, they know more about copyright than anyone else because they know precisely what they can get away with when they're producing their own brand things. And I guess this is exactly the same for Ineos. They know precisely what they can get away with. Cool. Well, thanks for that, Neil. We look forward to seeing it in print if you're going to be writing up about it, or on a website, or wherever you're going to end up popping it out. But before we bring on a guest for the week, Naomi, you've been really kind and said that you're going to take over the red-green questions for us this week. So if everyone happens to have red and green stuff to hand, sorry for chucking this at you right now, Naomi. Hopefully,
I'm very impressed. Oh, look at that. That is terrific. Well done. Yes, okay. Rapidly thrown together. So forgive me. Will I crack on? Is that all right, Damien?
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah, I've only got that. That's red, but that'll have to do. You get the gist.
Okay. If there are any overlaps with previous questions, my apologies. But here we go. So, from the top. 2-stroke engines are better than 4-stroke engines. I'm looking for Mark's opinion here, really.
I don't
Yeah,
know what
Mark's
that
still.
is.
Right in the middle.
I'll just
Perfect.
put that.
Electric scooter companies in cities are a good idea.
Yeah.
Mixed.
You get hit by one.
Ride sharing is the future of the automobile.
No.
I hate doing this, but green.
I like this mix. This is good. Eating or drinking in the car is unacceptable.
Which
Legally,
one
yeah.
disagrees with that? That's red disagrees, isn't it? Yeah.
I thought more
Unless it's a
people
press car, then it's
would agree
fine.
with that. Okay, perfect.
What if you have a specific menu that you're allowed to choose from?
Bargain bucket.
My business partner is convinced that no, you can't drink even in the car. It's absolutely not acceptable. So that's why I have that question.
Yeah. No crumbly chocolate is the rule with mine.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
Sound.
Or something like a Magnum. Nightmare. Convertible cabriolets are cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
depend-
green.
well,
Brilliant.
Is that everyone green?
Clean
Yeah.
sweep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. MotoGP is more exciting than F1.
Come on.
Yeah, this is mainly for Craig, really.
Without question.
Excellent. Kanye West will be the next US president.
Who knows?
Only with
Oh,
improvement.
they voted for
They know.
Trump. Why wouldn't they vote for Kanye?
Good shout.
Barely.
Poor reliability improves racing.
Yeah.
Nice. That's great. SpaceX is cooler than NASA.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
The current or new F1 theme is better than the chain.
Ooh.
I haven't heard it, so
Don't
can't
know.
help.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
It's good. It's a banger, but I remember when it first came out, Naomi, you even said to me, you texted me saying, I'm grooving along to the new F1 theme. I hadn't even heard it at that point. I was like, oh, there's a new theme. And I can't remember what it was about, but I remember you texted me saying you were listening to it.
Everyone got really upset about that theme, and I quite liked it.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of grown on people since, but I'm aware it's not yet widely accepted, but I sort of think
It's fine as a thing, but it's not the chain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I will completely agree with you on that. Okay. Veganism is the future for us all.
Ooh.
Neil hedging his bets there. I can't remember who said they weren't going to Geneva this year, so I feel bad about this question. The Geneva Motor Show will never return in its traditional form.
Sorry, Ben.
Sadly, I agree.
Yeah. Good. For the journalists in the room, virtual press conferences are better than attending them in person, or press events in general.
Not in a month of Sundays.
Depends on what's being discussed.
True. There's no wine.
Yeah.
Virtual wine doesn't count either.
Virtual Parma ham and Wi-Fi.
I've forgotten about that, Neil. Oh wow, another world, isn't it? Of pre-lockdown. McLaren will win an F1 race this season. Some green, that's impressive. More than I expected. Okay, more complicated than that. Lando Norris will win an F1 championship as a McLaren driver.
I don't know enough, but my gut feel is no.
Yeah, I'm
You're right, Lewis.
Oh, would I put money on it?
I don't know. I want him to, so I'm going to go yes.
Yeah.
Play,
Trying
yeah,
to like
can't
to
argue with
support.
Okay, the Aston Martin brand will go bust before it wins an F1 race.
it. It goes bust all the time, so why not?
History says.
Yeah, it's been bust a few times.
Come on, Lewis. I was a bit confused.
Okay, as a slogan, self-charging cars is misleading to the point of negligence.
Absolutely.
No.
Not self-charging. It's just driving around.
I think
Our
the
battery's
person,
being charged.
the person on the street would not understand what's happening there.
It's such marketing guff. I'm sorry.
Well, how would you condense it into a short, easily communicated message then?
That's it.
I don't mention the word self-charging. Those words are banned from my website. Basically.
I thought that would divide people. All right, next one. Fernando Alonso will join Ocon at Renault next season.
Ooh.
I really hope not.
But follow Neil.
Power steering improves the driving experience. I should say
Depends on the car, but generally, yes. I was going to say.
Nice. In general, cars are too big nowadays.
Can't beat a lightweight.
Say that when you hit something.
I feel like a right hypocrite doing this because I've got a massive car right now.
All right, the last few. A well-spec'd estate is more desirable than a hot hatch.
But this is the problem. I've just completely contradicted my statement.
Mercedes E-Class wagon with the folding seats in the boot.
I'll get to the brown manual wagon clique again.
It's got to be diesel. It's got to be diesel as well as brown and manual.
Oh.
The SUV trend is out of control.
Oh, yeah.
They want it.
Oh no. I
What was
thought I
that,
was
Will?
alone here.
What everyone wants, for better or worse.
Vans are cooler than pickups.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, that's
actually,
hard.
yes, they are. You can, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hashtag van life.
I'm with Toby.
Pickups are crap cars.
Sorry, I missed that one.
Yeah.
What was that?
That's because
Say
they're not
that again.
cars, they're pickups.
Exactly.
LA, for your benefit, vans are cooler than pickups.
Vans are cooler. You can probably hear my computer talking as well. No.
Well played, LA.
Last one. I'd rather be told off by Gordon Ramsay than Mary Berry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
Secret man
pussy
crush.
under all that. He's a pussy.
You know what?
I couldn't deal with being told off by Mary Berry. It would crush me. I'm not joking.
Oh wait, LA, you sent me a question. Last one via LA. Fork scraping on a plate is worse than dry wipers on a window screen.
No.
Nothing worse than dry wipers on the windscreen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, almost a
You
clean
said it,
sweep.
Damien.
We have a neighbour who sits his 1-year-old in his car, and he lets him put the wipers on. And as we were messaging, I could hear it, and I was like no. And it's not just the noise; it's the idea of your wipers just ripping. Oh no!
It is painful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks ever so much for Naomi and LA for helping out as well. Anyone fancy doing them next week?
I'll do them next week.
Alan, you're in. You're doing it next
Legend.
week. Look forward to that.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, what we'll do now is let a very patient guest in. So some of you may know Rich already. I think a few might have even met him before. And so very luckily for us, we've managed to find a great guest because this was a bit short notice for Rich. I'll just wait for him to connect. But we know him, quite a few of us know him for his cars, lover of Volvos, and he works in photography and that kind of thing. So I've just seen that he's not been able to connect. Mark, what are you doing?
I'm struggling with internet connection.
You're upside down.
I'm upside down.
Rich.
Hold on. Oh, what is going on now?
Wait.
Sorry, Rich. We're a bit distracted right now because Mark seems to be in Australia. Rich, can you hear us okay?
Said it was your own fault.
Should be there.
Rich, can you hear us okay, buddy?
Yes, I finally figured out how computers work in 2020.
Please forgive Mark. He's doing some sort of acrobatics feats on Ninja Warrior or something. He's just disappeared, so hopefully he'll come back, and I probably will let him in when he comes back in. But Rich, if you want to just let us know, for anyone watching, your name and your Twitter handle as well, because they're quite different, aren't they?
My name is Rich Scott. Most people on Twitter know me by Joe Hallenbeck, which is not my name. But it was a handle that I came up with when I joined Twitter, and it's only a joke if you know the Bruce Willis movie The Last Boy Scout.
Okay.
And that's that. If I'd known that Twitter was going to be such a huge part of my life, I probably would have just gone with my name. But this is the situation we find ourselves in. So
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me. Hello.
Hello. No, it's no problem. Thanks ever so much for coming in at short notice. So what's the film again?
The film that the name is from is The Last Boy Scout, which is directed by Tony Scott and is incredibly violent and one of my favorites. And
I think LA's nodding along as well, so I guess you've seen the film.
The great Tony Scott. You just have to say his name, really, don't you? Just fabulous, fabulous guy. Deja vu, all the rest. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. That leads us nicely, segue into my favorite car advert, which is the Tony Scott Saab Jet advert. Nothing on earth comes close, which got him the job. Got him on the shortlist for directing.
Sorry, we lost you at the end there, Richard.
Oh, I was just saying that the Tony Scott link gets me my entry for favorite car advert, which is the Tony Scott Saab Jet advert from the 80s.
Excellent. Have you got an example of it there, or is there one that I can Google to bring up, do you think, or have you got it on your phone? So is this an advert as in a TV ad or a print ad? I guess it's a TV ad if it's directed.
Yeah, it was. It got him on the shortlist for Top Gun.
Oh.
And yeah, because he's Tony Scott. That only got him. There we go. That's the link. That's the link to the advert on the chat there.
Okay, I'll just track that down, and I'll do a quick screen share. So this is a YouTube clip.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get this to show people.
Damien screen shares are always a highlight.
For you guys, let's have a look. No, that's I can't screen share that. YouTube, there we go. If I click this, maybe this will work. Let me know if you see this.
It's thinking.
It's thinking. You can see it thinking. Can you hear it?
No, it's still thinking.
Oh, the tension.
I know.
It's the best version.
Oh, there it goes.
It looks like it was recorded on VHS off the telly in the that just makes it even cooler, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is fantastic because it's obviously a parallel to Top Gun as well, isn't it? It's a great advert. I remember this one.
Half a frame a second.
That only got him it got him on the shortlist, and then all of the shortlisted directors had to go for a meeting with the producers, who were fishing up in the white water somewhere up in Northern California somewhere, and the minibus with all of the shortlisted directors for Top Gun got dropped off on one side of the river, and the producers were on the other. And Don Simpson, the one of the producers, yelled across, "The first person to swim across the river gets to direct Top Gun." And Tony Scott was the only one that jumped in the water.
There you go. Wow.
And that's how we got Top Gun, and that's how Tony Scott leapt from commercials to movies.
And this was the early 80s, you said?
Yeah, it's very quintessentially 80s. But they love the way he shot it's primarily the takeoff shot right at the end. They loved the way he filmed the jet, and they had a tendency to always go with commercial and music video directors, and this shot here, this is what pretty much got him on the shortlist for Top Gun.
It is very similar, isn't it? So you guys will have to enlighten me there. Did you guys actually manage to hear the soundtrack to that, or was it just visual?
No.
Visual, yeah, but it's a very similar theme song to the Top Gun theme, really similar sounding. So whoever did the score for Top Gun, I don't know, and did the score for that, I don't know if they were the same person, if anyone knows that, or if it's, you know, they just took an inspiration, but it's very similar vibe.
Yeah, that's what they wanted. They wanted, you know, they wanted flashy. They wanted the that worship of machine. And you know, look at Michael Bay. Look at all of his Transformers movies, and then look at his commercials. The guy can shoot. The guy can shoot a product shot. That's why all those cars and trucks look so good all the time. You know, that's where these guys get. That's where they get their start. You've got to be able to sell a product, and in Top Gun, that was planes, and to a lesser extent, Tom Cruise, and it worked.
Yeah, fantastic. Talking of the car adverts, I mean, you guys have been thinking about this, and Ella, you sent me one earlier as well. So while I've got the screen share hat on, I'm just going to show you one, if that's all right, Ella, to do yours next.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just kind of get that up here again. Give me a few minutes, and let me know when you can see it, and then Ella, you can talk us through it. Can you see a screen in front of you guys now?
Yes.
There we go. I'll click play and it'll take a few minutes, but hopefully a few of you will recognise this. But LA, why did you pick this one?
Quite a few reasons, really. I remember at the time I was quite young, very early teens. I think it was 1987, and it was kind of this era of, I guess, female empowerment, if you wish, and you know, Paula Hamilton being quite a well-known model at that point, and David Bailey actually directed this. There's an Audi behind that. David Bailey actually directed this as well, and you know, she was kind of like one of his stars, one of his prodigies. And I just feel from a filmmaker's point of view, because, you know, I have a media background, that there's so much within that advert, not just selling a car, you know, it's the powerful outfit, the red outfit. It's then there's obviously some very clear decision gone on here in this house that something's not worked out, and she's throwing a wedding ring back through the letterbox. And you know, for decades and decades, women had just been tied to that kitchen sink, and we were in a very real change of time at that point of you know, not just bra burners, but people that were saying, you know, hey, look, you know, we shouldn't just be tied to a kitchen sink giving birth to your children. You know, we are people, and we have brains, we have intelligence, and we can also be gorgeous and still have all that, and we also don't need to be reliable and reliant on what's in that house. So there's very sort of a lot of subliminal messages from that, and because I was obviously at a young age at that time, that sort of set a precedent really for the rest of my life. You know, to not, I come from a very very humble, very poor background, you know, and I grew up single parent, and even my mum, who wasn't sort of some businesswoman, she was just a typical mum that had a 2-hour cleaning job every night, because during the day she was looking after me and my sister. And even her, you know, could be this inspirational woman, and you know, you didn't have to be there with shoulder pads necessarily to have a great influence over people and to be a great person. So the advert really, you know, it was all the Madonna thing at the time, and I think it was just trying to take that male gaze, you know, away from the woman being just that male gaze of a man, and saying, hey, you know, I'm going to take this power back, and I'm going to be independent, and I don't need a bloke to rely on, because they're not very reliable, sorry.
Yeah, fantastic. What a great thing to have happen in those days, and obviously clearly had an effect on you. And,
well, yeah, I mean, probably a bit devastating, really, because I think I've gone too far the other end of the scale. I spent 2 decades being that independent. You know, it kind of worked for me for a couple of decades, but, you know, kind of getting a bit soft in my old age and maybe reverting back to I just turn around and walk back in the house now. I don't know.
Fair enough.
But I think it actually irritated me a bit, that advert too, because initially you kind of think, why keep the car as well? Just ditch everything, just get rid of the guy, you know. But then there's another part of me that thinks, yeah, take the car, yeah, throw the wedding ring away, but why lose the mink coat? You know, keep the mink coat. Goodness me.
You see the empowerment, it's kind of tailing off now.
Well, you know, it's the mink coat.
The car
Isn't
is
it, you know?
reliable. The car is a thing that she can rely on, so she's keeping that because it's the one thing that won't let her down.
Well, I know that, I understand that, but there's also the subliminal message. When she gets into that car, the screen is obviously sort of, you know, wet or damp or whatever, moist, and she wipes that screen, which wipes it clear, and that's a connotate, that's for her, and that's her new beginning as well. And to be honest with you, the reliance is on herself. She can be self-reliant. She doesn't need that anymore. So there's so many subliminal messages in that advert. It's unreal. And I think the reliability, yeah, she's got a damn good car, but really the reliability is her.
Yeah. I think Volkswagen have always been really good at this kind of thing, and I wouldn't be surprised if one or more pops up as we go for everyone else. Let's get to Rich Goodin then. Rich, have you managed to have a think about this?
I have, yeah, and it started off with print because it basically went from this to this in 1959.
Fantastic.
What it's seen through Dordain Burnback, Volkswagen's agency. But when you first mooted this last week, the first advert I thought of, and it's not my favourite, but I'm not sure why. This was, well, it had this headline, so it's very un-PC.
Yep.
And this was in the 70s, and it's basically selling safety. But it was quite of its time, I think. And that got me thinking about all the stuff that they've done. But in terms of TV, there's one, well, I'm going to revert to type and do Polo adverts, but there was one with Jeff Capes in the early 80s where he kind of inspects the car and they narrate its virtues, and he eventually pushes it over and over. And if people, I mean, the young people might not know who Jeff Capes is, but I would imagine most other people do. He was, I think it was the world's strongest man in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
Well, the one I've chosen is the one from 1995, which is where Volkswagen had a tradition of dropping its cars into adverts. I think, as Jonty said during the week, actually. And it all started with the Golf, I think, back in the 70s. And in 1995, they rebooted it for the then third generation Polo, and with a mixture of CGI and real action, they dropped the car off a tower block, in effect. And through various processes and filming and stuff, they made it appear like it was flying down the building, and it stopped just before it got to the bottom, and the guy got out, and then the drop was very, very tiny. But I was about 21 at the time, and it did stick with me for quite a while afterwards.
Yeah, is that one that we could perhaps, you know, for people?
I've got it on my phone, or if it'll work that way. Hang on a minute. Make sure my volume's up. Nope.
But because this new Polo is so solid, we thought we'd really drop it. It's gracious, aerodynamic, power steering, but above all, this is the safest Polo we've ever built.
And it was supposed to. I remember seeing a bit on TV at the time when it was made that it was supposed to be the end bit was supposed to be like a Roadrunner movie or something, or a movie.
Yeah.
So that's what I've chosen. But there were so many that I could have picked.
It's so hard, isn't it? Because there's been some great stuff, and it's when you start looking at all these really good ones that you look at what's on TV now that isn't anywhere near as good as that, and just it seems like such a waste of time. The adverts that some are still good, but a lot of them are just so safe and worried about upsetting people that everyone seems to play safe. Lewis, have you got any ideas about what was a great car advert from the past that you really stuck with you?
Yeah, I actually went for a few in print. Annoyingly, one of the ones I couldn't find was used to be a Range Rover advert. I'm sure it's a really, really early one. I think it was for the American market, but it was where there was a shot of a beautifully tarmacked road sweeping around a corner. And then it had the Range Rover at like a 45-degree angle on a bank driving around the dirt on the outside of the corner. I always really liked that, but I couldn't find it. The two that I could find was this really early Pontiac GTO shot.
Nice.
Which is just very, very simple. I always really wanted like a big blown up version of it.
Yeah.
But, it's quite hard to come by seeing.
That's cool. I like that.
And then the other one, which is one that always puts a smile on my face, partly because I owned a lot of these, was this, which you probably couldn't do these days.
Yeah, that's in the 20-mile-an-hour limit.
71 was the figure they were going for.
Oh, right.
I suspect the Smith Speedo might not have been able to accurately communicate that fact.
Fantastic. Neil, have you got any adverts there to hand, or ones that you could perhaps show us?
Yeah, I've gone for a print one as well, but it's not technically an advert. It's actually a spoof of an advert. National Lampoon in the 70s did a spoof of one of the classic DDB Volkswagen ads. Well, I'll stick it up, and you can draw your own conclusions on it. But it's a classic of the genre. It does help a bit about 1960s and 70s US politics. But there you go. I think it's just a work of absolute genius.
Fair enough. It does look like a Volkswagen ad when you first see it. You can quite believe it until you look in detail. I think it's a great thing about some of these spoofs. Some have come up in the group chat during the week. But yeah, very, very clever, that one. Ian, have you got an idea of a?
I have. Well, I really like there's the Honda advert where they, I think, hits each other. I really like that one. But then I thought actually I'd show one that I was actually involved with. So this is the Jaguar Land Rover advert from 2011, and this was in print and online mainly. So you can see it there. You've got the.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh.
So I was commissioned to create an artwork using Range Rovers and Jaguars, and I wasn't actually painting any products because they didn't want it to age.
Okay.
But the XF going through paint, and actually I had to have two different setups. Is that I was painting one bit, and actually all the filmography, all that was done elsewhere because that's fun to. So then in a minute it will zoom out. And it was a globe.
Fantastic.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's
How long did that
amazing.
take to do?
Well, this is a funny thing. So the first advert was they really enjoyed doing, and we had 2 days to shoot it in. And then they were like, right, we'll book you again, but we've only got 3 days and we want an advert per day. And I was like, you're kidding me. They're like, no, that's what we want. So yeah, so it all done in a studio over a week. I think it was 3 adverts in 4 days. Sorry. But yeah, and it was literally I was in my studio when I was at the Heritage Motor Centre at Gaydon. I was in the studio, and the guy who he'd literally written a storyboard to say cars painting, and he'd walk around the corner into my studio and went, "Oh, you paint the cars?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I'm going to pitch you next door and go and have, I've got a meeting now." And that was the easiest pitch I've ever had. Was of literally somebody walked around a corner, already written the storyboard of painting the cars, and that was that. So it was done for that was done for the when they were recruiting. So JLR had just been bought by Tata, so they were just recruiting all the engineers back in 2011. It was all over like piss and heads, and so both the viral video as well as the static shots of the complete artworks. So yeah, that's what I was involved with.
Brilliant! Wow, how about that? It's actually being involved with an advert. That's fantastic. So is that still available now on YouTube as well?
No, it's all gone now. I think it was done by an agency, so I think they must have got rid of the agency, and all the collateral went with it. So I've literally, the only copy I've got is on my iPad of that, because it's not available anymore. So it's one of those things. Like, yeah, it was a really cool thing to do, and learn so much about how they shoot stuff in adverts and what I can do, what they can. And it just put me in a much better mindset for future pitches as well.
Sorry, Ian, I'd lost you just at the end there. But a much better mindset for
future pitches, like when I'm being asked to do something, I can kind of refer back to that, how long that one took, and how what I learned from that as an artist, and yeah, so it was a really cool project to be involved with.
Fantastic, brilliant stuff. Naomi, have you got an example of one?
Yeah, I was going to say, I hadn't thought about it until you mentioned it, Ian. Was that ad from Land Rover? It must have been 4 or 5 years ago now, where they had the aerial shot on the beach where they drew a massive Land Rover. Neil, you remember it? Yeah. I just thought they've always led. I mean, I was lucky to work on Jaguar's Formula E team, and you can kind of see the firepower they have of, in terms of adverts. They have massive creative sort of energy. But mine are, I've got two really quick ones. One is more sort of personal, and the other one is kind of, I think, more important. That I was trying to think of ads that had gone outside of the car bubble and outside of our own echo chamber. And so the stuff that was really kind of big on TV when I was a kid, let's say. So like stuff like the Renault Megane that had Shaking That Ass, when they had that kind of, all that sort of stuff. So one of them is, I think it was the Peugeot 206, that the advert was called The Sculptor, where it was filmed in an Indian village, and they had and they formed 206 out of an older car. And I love that one because the music in that, I was, when I worked at Mahindra Formula E, we went to Delhi, and I was sat in a cab with Nick Heidfeld, and he put the song on from that ad and just started like bopping in the car. And I just thought, like, I've made it. Just like this perfect moment, super selfish, like, esoteric moment. But for me, that's like very, very, very special. But the ad I was going to bring up was, we've just come through Pride Month and everything was, and I do generally dislike car adverts that don't really talk about the car. But this is a whole kind of enterprise in itself. But it's the Renault Clio ad from last year, the 30 years in the making.
Yes.
I just absolutely love that, and it's the first ad I've seen in a long time that has really has had a massive impression outside of the car industry. We all talk about car ads that are cool, but for people to share a story and think, I'm actually crying watching a car advert, that doesn't happen that often. And it was a really lovely one because for those that don't know, it was a long-term narrative from two young girls meeting one another as a French exchange student meeting a French friend, I think, going through to getting to know one another, developing a romance, that romance being sort of condemned, let's say, and then an end story of, reunion and starting a new life together. And it was incredibly meaningful, but also very authentic. So it was lovely. It didn't feel like somebody was taking the mick or needlessly, I suppose kind of exploiting, I suppose is what I really mean. It was just a really authentic story. And I watched that and I absolutely love it. And, for me, a lot of what I do in my own life is around diversity and inclusion. And, we're all talking about that a hell of a lot at the moment. So I wanted to mention that one because I really genuinely, I still love that ad and will actually go back and watch that ad. I wouldn't do that with many, but that one is definitely deserving of a mention.
Yeah, a very bold move by them as well. And, it's something that a lot of people would perhaps been a bit reluctant to do. We're just going to say goodbye to Neil there, who's just disappeared. But we'll crack on with this because I know we've got, although Neil's not about, we actually do have his latest quiz, and it's quite timely that we have to do it now because there's a bit of F1 in it. So Ben, if we can take yours next.
So mine is from the BMW film series in the early 2000s called The Hire. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. So BMW essentially got a load of directors and actors together with a British actor called Clive Owen in the lead role. Made about 14 films, 2001 and 2002, I believe. And one of them was a film called Ambush, which featured Owen in his nameless driver role, because you never knew his name or anything. It was all very mysterious. And obviously the driver used BMWs, and it was essentially 14 adverts for BMW products at the time. But the main one, or the best one for me, was Ambush, because it was directed by John Frankenheimer, who did Ronin just a few short years before that. And in all the films, pretty much every BMW got dings, dents, bullet holes, you know, which was quite rare at the time. And essentially they just gave all the films away online, which was pre-YouTube, pre kind of viral marketing. But yeah, the Ambush film features a 740i, an E38, which is why it's my favourite.
Oh, fantastic.
So I have the link because it's 6 minutes long. So
Okay.
There's no chance of getting through it. So I'll drop it in the chat.
Yeah, we'll pop it
is
on
worth a
the
watch.
on the comments for people who are watching this back another time. Fantastic. Before we move on to the next one, Toby, I believe you've got to shoot off because you have a life.
Yeah, I've got an early start tomorrow, so I best hit the hay.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much for that, and hopefully we'll see you back again for another one. I know your work schedule is really kind of hard to fit around, so but it's been great to have you there, and take care. We'll see you next time.
Mega. Take care, guys. Thanks for having me. See you soon.
Okay, Mark, actually, because you said you had a two-wheel idea.
I did, and it's quite inappropriate, and I kind of regret it, but you know we're here now, aren't we? So
it's gone 9 o'clock, so
yeah, exactly. It's titled Aprilia Sperm Bank Commercial, so that kind of sets the tone. Yeah, I've sent you the link on Twitter actually in a DM, Damien. So if you feel free to share it. But long story short, guy walks into a sperm bank to donate. Lady shows him to the cubicle. He's got a selection of porn mags and a cup, and he goes in there and he can't perform, can't manage to get it to work out. So and he tries and it goes anyway. He comes back out and he's maybe there's something else I could use. Grabs another magazine excitedly, runs back in. Moments later comes out, job done. Goes out with a smile on his face, puts the cup on the counter. Lady at the reception is really kind of curious as to what happened. So she has a wander into the room to see what he was looking at. And there's a picture of the Aprilia RSV Miele on the side. And that's kind of what did it for him. But this is over time. It's 1998. So it's, you couldn't do that these days.
No, that's fine. I won't share the link just now then. But again, it's probably one that's it's going to be good to include in the comments for people who do want to find that one. Yeah, I think I remember it, but I'm not sure if I do or if it's...
Yeah, it's actually interesting from a couple of points of view, I think, as well. Joking aside, motorbikes aren't really sold on sex these days. They're sold on things like, I don't know, like how many miles you get to a tank and what the economy is and stuff. It's really changed since those days.
Yeah, no, it's good to look back at that. A bit of tongue in cheek. I like that. Craig, have you got one to hand, or have you not had a chance to get one this week?
No, I haven't got one to hand, but I can always try and find one that I like. But there'll probably be some loose F1 link or something like that. I've got a couple sort of kind of whirring around in my head, but I'm like, is that one any good? I don't really remember.
And you could pick like the Steve McQueen one. That was always a good one, wasn't it? Was it a Ford? Was it a Puma? Or something?
The Puma, the remake. Yeah,
that was always good around San Francisco.
Yeah, Craig, if you get any ideas, just send it to me on a Twitter DM or something, and I'll add them in the comments.
Yeah, definitely.
Underneath the thing. Alan, now you were. I was leaving you till last because I knew that you perhaps had a couple of different options depending what other people said.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm amazed that there's a couple that haven't been taken, to be honest. And I feel that all my options are far too predictable. But I'm going to go with my top, the one that is top of my list here, which is the Peugeot 405 Take My Breath Away one with the
I see
huge amounts of carbon dioxide
on YouTube, and so Near Khan has suggested the 405 takes your breath away, and I think he was hoping
he's
that
a
was
man
going to come
taste.
Well, yeah, if he was here today, I could have invited him along. We could have asked his opinion on things like the design of the Grenadier and such. But so the 405.
I was going for the 405 takes your breath away one with the music by is it Berlin?
Berlin.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, Rich Gooding straight in there.
Thanks. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it does kind of go back to yes.
It's full circle.
And it's just fantastic. It's still fantastic.
Yeah.
And I just think it's great stuff.
Cool. I'll stick a note of a link to that in the comments as well then, because I think most people have seen it. But if you haven't, then have you got it there? But I know.
I will have. I will copy and paste it in just a sec. The other one that amazed me that nobody chose was the Land Rover going up the dam one, the best 4x4 by far one, which again is another absolute favourite of mine.
Fantastic. Oh,
and,
thanks.
Nobody picked the Saab cake one. I mean, that cake was tremendous.
Skoda cake.
You just wanted to just dive straight into that and just start eating.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of adverts out there that we haven't mentioned that people will be hopefully keen to tell us about. And Near Khan's just said, thank you, Alan. So, if you want to give him a wave, we'll leave you two to have a room together, shall we?
We've met in person, so it's just,
that's all right.
Is that like Amir Khan? Like
no, Near Khan.
I've always said Amir Khan. I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah, just Amir Khan.
Near on. That would be great. Can we get Near on one of the future ones?
Yeah, I'm sure we can. Near, if just send one of us a DM on Twitter if you want to get involved in another week. I'm sure we'll get you on. So sorry, Alan. What was the? Oh no, the Land Rover, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just amazed nobody chose Near or the Incredible Dream by Honda. That was the other one.
Oh yeah.
I had at the last second because I was so sure someone was going to do that. I hadn't even lined it up on my little list there.
Alan, did you see the Jasper Carrot spoof of the Peugeot one? I can't recall where. Well, I must have experienced, but that was quite amusing from memory. But yeah,
I will now have to look it up once we're finished. Yeah,
take off of that advert. Yeah.
The other one I thought about was the is it the evil car where the cat gets its head in the. I thought it was a little bit harsh on cats, but that was a really good advert with from Ford.
And there was a bird one as well, with the bonnet flipped up and whacked it into a tree. Yeah, just a nice little series of adverts that were just really, appealing to the right people, I think, for that. Oh, great. Well, we might have to come back to car adverts another week because there's so many that we're all going to now think of. But we'll move on because although Neil's not about, he did send me the F1 quiz earlier because the quiz this week is a bit more F1 themed. I know Lewis is going to be over the moon. It's all about F1, but we'll see how we all do. So I'm just going to attempt to screen share as I often do. Right. If you happen to have a pen and paper, Rich Scott, you haven't done one of these before, but there'll just be a quick 5-question quiz. I believe this one's all about F1. I haven't actually watched it myself yet, but if you have a pen and paper there to hand, just jot down your answers. As the video plays, as the video plays, there'll be a brief pause between questions that we can quickly jot down the answers. Just keep your running total as we go through it, and then at the end we'll see who managed to get more than just one. So I'm just
who's been made to feel really stupid by a 9-year-old this week?
Yeah, that's what it should be called.
I see how Toby made a sharp exit before he had to do this.
Yeah, he's got a reputation to protect, doesn't he? Can you guys see a black screen?
Yeah,
it's come up. Yeah, it's working.
Right, I'm going to click play. Get ready. Oh, you can't hear the music, can you? No, I need to sort that out. So I know normally it would be Neil sorting this out, and I'm not sure how he does it.
While you do that, Damien, can I ask just for the car journalists in the room, what's it like testing cars post-COVID or receiving new cars and all of that?
I think the biggest thing for me is the fact that I had one delivered today and one went back today, but certain car manufacturers ask you to clean the surfaces before you hand it back. So the Toyota that went back yesterday, I went out there last night and just wiped over the surfaces. And the same with the Volvo that's here this week. When that goes back, that will have to be just wiped over as well. The Renault that came a couple of weeks ago, they took that back and they said it was going to be sidelined for 2 or 3 days and then deep cleaned afterwards before it went out again. So I think different manufacturers have different processes.
Brave new world.
Yeah, I know that I'd scrubbed down the Stinger when it went back, and they were quite surprised he was all ready to do it himself, but I'd already done it all and stuff. So, so yeah, I'm collecting a Toyota from Toyota in a little while, so I don't know how we'll do that, especially as I'm leaving my car there. So,
is it a Yaris?
No, it's not a Yaris.
Well, it might be
none of those
the
until
thing.
October or November. Okay. Anybody who tags me in with Yaris stuff again, I have spoken to them. There is nothing I can do until October or November.
Are you gutted that they aren't using it in the World Rally series though?
A little bit. I'm a bit worried about longevity of the model in that term, but I guess I'll just swap the undertrays. I don't know yet. That's the trouble. I've got a whole long list of questions, but I can't do an interview until probably October time for various reasons at their end. I've asked basically.
Okay.
Right, guys, are you ready for some F1? So I'm going to try this again. I have clicked the button, which apparently should share sound, but I'll press it. And if after 10 seconds you can't hear any sound, or a few seconds you can't hear any sound, just wave furiously at me and I'll stop it and try again. But I'm going to click play now.
Hey!
Yay.
Because the Formula One season has started this weekend, me and my father decided to do an all Formula One quiz. If you don't like that, too bad. Question 1. Who came second to Mika Hakkinen in the 1998 Formula One season? The answer? Michael Schumacher. Question 2. Who was George Russell's teammate at Williams in 2019?
Who?
The answer? Robert Kubica. What was the first engine supplier for Nigel Mansell as a Formula One driver when he was at Lotus in 1980? The answer? Ford Cosworth. Not Ford, Ford Cosworth. And not Cosworth, Ford Cosworth.
Oh, bugger.
We're not even allowed half a point.
Question 4. Guess this car from these 5 very small pictures.
Oh, come on.
Do we get a point for the manufacturer?
The answer? The Ferrari 641. We will also accept the answer. The 1990 Ferrari F1 car.
Good.
Question 5. How many times has Ayrton Senna won the Monaco Grand Prix? The answer? A whopping 6 times. Yes, one more than Graham Hill, somehow.
Well done, LA.
And thanks everyone for playing, or everyone who did play. And we'll see you next week. I hope you got some right. And thank you.
Thank you, Ray Briscoe there. Okay. That started off, I think, fairly easy, and then suddenly wasn't.
Did it really?
Craig looks happy.
Did anyone get 5 out of 5?
Oh,
Great.
yay!
Yeah, this one was just written for you, though, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Good. For the Ford Cosworth, because Neil's not here to tell us off, shall we give half a point if you put either Ford or Cosworth?
Yeah. Please.
Yeah.
Please.
So did anyone get 4.5?
Well, I did, but for another reason.
Are you giving yourself half a point for something else?
Yeah, for
All
the
right.
Ferrari. And I put
Oh, come on.
I put 99 something.
No.
You got 4.
Well, no.
Yes. Who
I
else
got
got 4?
Ford Cosworth.
Yeah, but you
got
didn't get the
the whole
Ferrari
lot.
one right. Who got 4 as well as Ale? Anyone
Cross my
got
arms.
anyone got 3.5? No, anyone got 3? Naomi, nice one. Anyone got 2.5?
Yep.
Anyone got 2? Rich. 1.5.
Keep
1.
going.
Oh, yeah.
One if it's Ferrari, half if not.
Yeah, give him half.
Oh dear. Well, it was a tricky one. Well done to Craig, though.
Yeah.
I think well done. You've managed to maintain your reputation. Well done. You made us
Just
all look
about.
silly.
You got that year of that Ferrari. What gave the year away?
Well, I got the chassis rather than the year, but I just know it's the nose really that did it for me. Once I saw that nose at that particular angle, I was like, yeah, that's a 1990 Ferrari 641. So
Brilliant. Well, talking of your knowledge of motorsport, we've come to that point in the night of the week where we ask you for a fantastic fact of the week. Have you got one ready for this week?
at very short notice, yeah. Like I said, I had a few things going on earlier throughout the day, so I didn't really have the time to prep one up like that quickly. But going back to this weekend's race, it was surprising really that this weekend, Sunday's race marked the very first time that a Mercedes, a Ferrari, and a McLaren shared the F1 podium.
Really? Wow.
Gosh.
And those teams have got over 400 F1 wins between them.
The very first time, I think.
Very first time those three particular constructors have shared the podium.
Wow.
That's incredible. Wow. Thanks for that, Craig. Fantastic.
Top knowledge.
Cool. So that kind of brings us to the end of the night. If anyone else has any thing they'd like to point out before we let everybody go, then speak now. So I've just seen some more comments coming in, and someone did guess a Ferrari 614. So very close to the correct answer. And great quizmaster. There's a comment that goes to lovely 9-year-old Ray Briscoe there. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming along. Rich, it's been great. Rich Scott, it's been great to have you here for the first time. Rich, it's always great to have you here. Rich Goodin. But for now, thanks everyone. We'll have another think about some car adverts in another one. Maybe we'll give it a few weeks time. But yeah, for anyone who's watching on YouTube, we'll drop a link in the comments at some point during the week with all the YouTube clips that we've spoken about, and also some shortcuts to get to key points when we were talking about the red green that Naomi did this time, the red green round, the car adverts and the F1 quiz and that kind of thing. But hopefully you've all enjoyed it again this week, and hopefully we'll see you all again another time. So for now, from the ZoomZoomers, thanks ever so much. Subscribe. There's a button at the bottom right if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you do that. And then every Monday, 8 p.m. till about 9 p.m. or so on, we'll do this. So keep an eye out for that. And if you have any queries, questions, suggestions about what you want to see, then let us know during the week or let us know during the ZoomZoomers. We'll try and keep an eye on things. Until next week, though, thank you very much and goodbye.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
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 See you later.